we've just hinted on a little bit in terms of live league projection model. So I think the example he gave was Luton scored against Sheffield United, and that when they equalised, their percentage of getting relegated drops. Obviously, you could assign technically a value to those goals that were scored. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about this live league projection model. How is that? Is that literally as goals go in, as games are happening, and what is that taken into account as well?
Yeah, sure. We also did this actually during the Euros where we simulated out the tournament, but also live, so as matches were happening. So the Slovakia game for England, you could see their probability of making the next round as every minute went on was kind of dropping. But I guess if we go to a league example where it's probably a bit easier to understand. So yeah, if we start with the Championship, for instance, or maybe the Premier League, we've got a sense of how good all 20 teams in the league are using our World Super League. So we can simulate out the rest of the league and kind of get projections. In order to do that live for a game, we get live information on the time of the match and the player state and also the game state. So we can say, and you would have seen this, I think, a lot maybe in broadcast where you get the live probabilities.
Yeah.
So we can say, okay, minute 50, this team has, X% chance of winning based on how good they are, but also maybe they're 1-0 up, so or they're playing against 10. So during a match, we take those components and the strength of two teams, time of the game to say, okay, started at 20% to win, but now you've gone 1-0 up and there's 50 minutes to go, you're at 50%. A lot of broadcasters do that as well. The next layer that we try to add is how do you put that into the context of the whole league? Yes, Burnley are winning 1-0, but what does that actually mean to their relegation chances in that exact moment? So what we do is not only do we simulate out that one match, but we also simulate out the whole season as well, and then combine those two things together. So as I say, most projections that you see, they do that pre-event, but we try to do that for one match in live and then combine that with all the other games that are happening. And it gets quite interesting where there's multiple games happening at the same time. You tend to see bigger swings as the season goes on. At the beginning of the season, obviously, because there's so many games left to play, a goal doesn't have as much of an impact. But as you get later on in the season, going 1-0, 2-0 up in a relegation battle is going to have a big swing in your chances. But I hope that kind of hopefully.
Yeah, no, that was interesting because I suppose then back to the recruitment angle, which was hinted at in the actual post from Omar was, I don't know what the value of staying in the Premier League is these days, but when it gets to January transfer window, if you are going to increase your chances of staying up by 10%, is it worth you splashing out 10 million quid on a striker or something like that? So it's all of those kind of things play a factor. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Nice, yeah. On that point about the striker in January, I think we did a bit of work a while back on looking at, I think, strikers signed in January in the European Big Five leagues and the number of goals they score. And I think we found that 1 in 3 actually score no goals when they're signed in January, which is quite a big one because I think they're the most signed position, but actually their return to goals at least is not what you'd expect. So yeah.
Yeah, I think as well. I think it'd be interesting to see data, but I think like January signings a lot. Well, not a lot, but some of them might just be literally panic. Like we need to do something, just get somebody in. Like so, yeah, that's really interesting. So.